Bonjour everyone, I am Anne-Lise Cailliez and welcome to Parlez-vous CEO, where we teach the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Hello, bonjour, bonjour, hello. Welcome to another episode of Parlez-vous CEO. My name is Anne-Lise Cailliez and I am your host. Today, for those who are just joining the podcast, so we are Brandora. We specialize in helping real estate companies scale their revenue. And if you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the DMs. So we have a very exciting guest today from Utah. I am pumped to have with me Jenny Hendricks, who works in residential real estate and has been an OJ in real estate since 1998. And I'm super excited to have her take today on what it takes to be in the industry for so long and what it takes to grow a business and what's coming up for her. Jenny, in your own words, would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure thing. So I started in real estate in 1998. And I know that I have been in the business for 27 years because when I got in the business, I was pregnant with my daughter and she's going to be 27 this year. So it's easy for me to keep track. So I started out as a licensee in 1998. I opened a real estate brokerage in 2005. I started out as a Century 21 franchisee, but as of just this past March, we are completely independent. We are now a boutique brokerage, not associated with any franchise. So that's been a really fun, exciting transition for us. I also have a property management company and we do short-term rentals as well. And most recently, I've kind of gotten into with my husband developing commercial and industrial properties. So sort of the full spectrum of real estate experience. And there just keeps being new opportunities that we get to jump into. It's pretty exciting.
Oh, this sounds like really fun. I love how you're taking this new tangent with industrials with your husband. So Jenny, what's your favorite thing about real estate?
So many things. I have a really, really long list of my favorite things about real estate. One of the things that I get really excited about is the opportunity to build wealth, create assets, create a good future while helping others achieve their goals. And I think that is just an incredible part of the real estate space, is getting to build one's own business and getting to build one's own future while also being able to talk through other folks' goals and help them get to where they want to be using the real estate space to get there.
I love that. And would you share with our audience the story of your first client, if you remember him or her?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you the story of my first client is pretty boring, but I will tell you the story of my best client. So about 25 years ago, I started working with an investor and he was coming from another state. He was in my area. We have a lot of traffic that comes from the Las Vegas area north, and then from sort of central and Southern California coming east. This is an investor that was coming out of Southern Nevada into Utah with the plan to at some point in time retire here. And he connected with me, and this was way back in the day, where there was no online marketing. Everything was in the little printed books that were distributed at all the local diners and gas stations and so forth. So he picked up this book, and at the brokerage I was with at the time, there were rankings for the agents in this book. So I was the number 2 agent in this little publication. And this investor called me specifically because he said, I think the number 2 person wants to be the number 1 person. And I think that number 2 person is going to hustle. And he was right. He was absolutely correct. So we connected and I started helping him find properties to invest in. He was a multifamily developer. And so we just had a great relationship over a couple of years, just talking about the market and investing and, running numbers and doing spreadsheets, which I love me a good spreadsheet. That investor is now my husband.
Okay. Drop
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great run over these last 20 years, getting to build in this space and combine our skill sets. So,
And so you work with your husband, right?
a lot we do.
Yeah. So that's something I have a super big fantasy about doing. I mean, first I would need a husband, but then I would want to work with my husband. But it is something that I always wanted to do. Could you share with our audience what are the pros and cons of working with your partner?
Sure. We've sort of over the years developed very specific skill sets, and he kind of stays out of what I do and I stay out of what he does. But we have great conversations about the goals, about the market. So his background, he's always been a general contractor, a developer. I've always been sort of in the marketing and real estate brokerage space. So we're able to bring those two really great skill sets together, but not really cross over. Like he doesn't really get into running the brokerage. Just it wouldn't work. And I don't get into telling him, when he needs to pull a permit or, the plans need to be ready and so forth. So I think as far as the pros and cons for us, we rarely work together all day long, but we do come together at least once or twice a day to talk about what is going on, what needs to be done, what does the next week or two look like, and what do I need to do? What does he need to do to keep moving these things forward? And it's been, one of the biggest pros, if we're talking pro and con, one of the biggest pros is being able to plan out long term, like the next 10 years and how we're going to retire and what does that look like and what do we each need to do to get that done as far as purchasing property, financing the property, marketing the property, developing the property, all of those things. So it's not something that I would want to work right next to him every single day, but we've been able to create this space where both of our skill sets are moving things forward in a very synergistic and dynamic fashion. It's worked for us.
So essentially, you're saying don't walk on each other's toes, find someone who has a complementary set of skills and don't work with them like the whole day. I really like also, I think there's a real pro with working with your partners because you also have your personal goal mixed in. So you can really say, how do we use the business to support our business goals? And you're completely aligned 100% on strategy and goals. And I think that makes a great partnership.
It really does. And so we get to be very focused on what is going to work for both of us going forward.
And so about working with your partner, how do you make the separation with home and work? Aren't you tempted to want to talk about business all the time?
You don't necessarily have to be married to your partner. If you find someone that has a great complementary skill set, you can do what we have done within a partnership, not necessarily a marriage. That's what I was going to say earlier. But to your question, and for us, the way we work, we're both very hard-driven type A sort of people. So really, there's very little separation for us. Work is a part of everything that we do. It's a part of many, many conversations. It's very fluid. We'll be talking about it and then pivot to golf or, a vacation or something like that. But it's never been an issue of like, at 6:00, we can't talk about work. It's always a part of the conversation because we both love it. It's not something that either one of us has found to be troublesome at all. And the other thing is we both enjoy the work so much that, if I don't get home until 7:00 at night, or, he's working on a Sunday morning to get things, cleaned up at the job site, it's really part of our process and it doesn't create any tension for us. It may in a different situation for folks, but with us, there really is no separation. This is just what we do.
And if you had a magic wand to solve one main challenge with the business, what would it be?
If I had a magic wand, I think what I would do is I would go back 15 years and really do a deep dive into goal setting and being far more deliberate than I was about hiring the right people, building in the right direction. So much of what I have done has been kind of trial and error, and it's ended up successful. But I think if I had had someone 15 years ago that could have sat me down and said, what is it that you really want? Where do you want to take this thing? And it's only been, maybe in the last 7 or 8 years that I've really realized how important it is to focus on that direction. So if I had a magic wand, I would go back in time and be far more focused and direct and specific in the goals that I wanted to accomplish with the business.
This is a great piece of insight, because I tend to think that people underestimate and just go into action mode and use sheer brute force.
Yes.
And I think there is merit to that, but I think by being strategic and intentional with your plan, one, that prevents the burnout, and two, you can really leverage your effort the best way and also have the vision. So it's not so much of a feeling kind of strategy. There is a strategy. You might be reevaluating it every 6 months, every year, but I agree with you. I think this is really important and a bit underestimated in the beginning, to have some type of a roadmap and being really intentional about it and not going in 52 directions and hoping
Yes,
for the best.
exactly. And it's okay to pivot. If you've got a goal and you've got a destination in mind, and then you get some new information, or, something else happens in the business, it's great to be able to pivot. But I think that those pivots will become more productive if you have that end goal in mind.
Absolutely. I'm completely with you. And Jenny, do you have any influencers or role models that you're looking up to? Or if you could have one dream dinner guest at home, and it can be someone deceased, who would it be?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I was actually thinking about that, having watched some of your previous guests. And because my business is so specific to what I do in this little corner of the world, and I cover so much of the real estate spectrum, I don't know that I have one specific mentor that I would point to. What I do is I really seek out people who have expertise in the space where I want to get to. So, for example, in the last 5 years, we've really stepped up our marketing and been very intentional about online marketing, video marketing, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And so I've been able to connect with people who have much more expertise in that area, in editing, in presentation, and so forth. And then on the real estate side, which is a completely different skill set, I've been able to connect with some fabulous coaches who have really given me some insight into just tweak something a little bit, and you're going to save time. You're going to be better able to help your clients. And then in the property management space, I've been able to connect with some local and state organizations who have fantastic systems that they've been able to share. I've switched software, based on a suggestion. So with what I have all going on, it's not just like one person that I would point to that says, here's the way, do this thing. But it is so beneficial to be intentional about finding someone who has more expertise than I do in whatever it is that I need help with at that moment in time. And I feel like we almost have a cheat code, because you can find all of this information from so many experts just by Googling it, going onto YouTube. We didn't have that even 10 years ago in the industry. And of course, when I started, that was before the internet was invented. So it's just, there's so much access to so much great information right now. And I feel really fortunate to be able to get that expertise within a few clicks. It really is truly amazing.
I think that's really important for CEOs to be able to do exactly what you're describing just now, to surround themselves with the right expert depending on their needs. And I am a marketer. I love marketing. What have you found the most successful in your effort with marketing?
This has been a really interesting learning curve for me. What we have access to now is the ability to define our client. Who do we love to work for? Who do we love to connect with? Who is the best fit for the way I love to do my business and being able to help someone accomplish their goals? So the video marketing piece has been absolutely transformative for my real estate business. And it was about 5 or 6 years ago. We actually went through some coaching. It started out very, very simply. And anybody who does video marketing, if you don't go back to your early videos and just cringe, you're not on the right learning curve. So these early videos that everybody has to go through it was really a deep dive into, okay, go back 5 years and write down your clients, like all of the transactions over the last 5 years. Who are you selling to? Who was finding you, and who do you love to work with? And then create an avatar. And I didn't even know what an avatar was. Create your sort of pretend ideal client and speak to that person. And it works. And so when I'm doing my video marketing, when I'm talking about my local market, when I'm doing walkthrough videos on a home, I'm speaking to kind of a specific person, and they find me. Almost every day, I get calls from people who say, I was on your YouTube channel. And they're almost always exactly that sort of avatar client that we have intentionally been speaking to, and it works. It's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, the whole video marketing thing and being so intentional about who my personal audience is, has made my real estate sales business absolutely explode.
This is music to my ears, what you're describing with figuring out the ideal customer for video marketing, talking to your ideal target client. Like in a nutshell, you've summarized very well personal branding, going on camera, consistency, that also what you want is on the other side of cringe. This is something I heard this week. So if you push through, yes, your first videos might not be great, but no one is born with a social media following. But on the other side of cringe is building authority and putting yourself as a key leader in your market. I think I love hearing that from you and that you're enjoying it, because also a lot of people are very resistant into building their own brand because they're not used to it. So it's new, it's uncomfortable. And I think particularly women are hesitant with building their personal brand from my experience. So for all of you listening, Jenny is very inspiring and did the work 5 years ago. Yes, in the beginning, it's hard, but 5 years later, you will find completely normal to go on camera and will be able to address your dream client as a one-on-one. And that's really how you make really good videos. Absolutely.
One of the things that really helped me was, and I think this is especially true for women, many women have a hard time kind of promoting ourselves. It feels a little selfish. It feels a little weird and maybe icky. I made a switch in my brain where when I am doing a video, when I'm talking about a subdivision or a home or market statistics, I look at myself as a separate brand from my own person. So I'm not doing a selfish marketing thing and look at me and aren't I fantastic? It is my job to market the brand. And that sort of takes that hesitation out of it, because this really is my job to market the brand. It just happens to be that I am the brand. So anyway, that was just something that sort of helped me get past that hesitation of self-promotion that I think a lot of women just aren't super comfortable with.
And yeah, this is a great tip indeed. And so if you had to meet your 20-year-old self, Jenny, what would you tell yourself?
Career-wise, I would look back at that 20-year-old self and say, you did it. So my 20s were so hard. Sorry, you'll have to cut this portion out. I don't mean to get emotional, but my 20s were very, very difficult. Personally, very difficult, and professionally, very difficult. So I would go back and tell that 20-year-old, you can have kids, you can raise kids, you can have a career, you can have the whole package, but it's a lot of damn work. It's a lot of work. But if you love everything that you are doing, you will do it. You will find a way. You will do it. So for any 20-year-old out there that is just starting out, I would go back to have a direction, have a goal. Do you want flexibility? Do you want financial freedom? Do you want build your own business? What is it as a 20-year-old that you want to do? And I promise it will change many times by the time you're 54 like I am. But having that sense of direction and sort of planning out what the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years looks like is really going to help you when you're making those decisions about, do I take a client today or do I go to my kid's soccer game? All of that is in the mix. It's a lot of work, but you come out on the other end and it's incredible.
That's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing. So, Jenny, you mentioned earlier that you were going to go into industrials with your husband. Could you share with our audience what's coming up next for you and what's the one thing you really want to achieve for the business for the next year?
Sure. So this is, I'll talk about real estate all day long. I just love it. So we're about halfway through selling out this industrial subdivision that we've developed. And doing this development was intentional to get us to the next thing that we are going to do. There's a little town just to the north of us called Parowan. And it's a town of about 3,000 people, but there's a ski resort there. It's a tourist destination, and this little town has been discovered. So about 3 years ago, we bought a piece of property there, and it was just incredibly affordable. It's the kind of thing where you have to buy it. And what we're going to do in this next project is sort of a multi-use where we're going to have some tiny homes. We're going to do some apartments. We're going to do some RV storage. And then on the front, which is the main road that goes into this little town, we're going to have some commercial space. So it's going to be a multi-use residential, higher density, short-term rental, commercial, all of the things sort of in a 2-acre piece. And that one, we are not going to sell. We are going to keep that one. So the opportunity to create that revenue is something that we are really, really looking forward to. And being able to kind of put all of those elements together in one project, I'm really excited for that one.
This sounds really fun. I'm really excited for you. We have to connect in a year. I want to see where that will be at. So Jenny, where can people find you?
So I am on YouTube. If you just go to YouTube and search my name, it's Jennie, and there's a CKS at the end of Hendricks. It's not Jimi Hendrix, it's Jenny Hendricks. I'm also on Instagram. You can find me at Jenny_Hendricks, and then on Facebook as well. Just search for Jenny Hendricks, and I am there.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for being on the podcast today. It was such a pleasure to have you.
It was a thrill to be here. Thank you so much. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And that wraps up today's episode on Parlez-vous CEO and our special real estate series with female leaders. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I can't wait to join you again next week. Thanks for listening to Parlez-vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-vous CEO. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.